fantastic to be here. Really looking forward to this whole session. This event is a fantastic event that also fits very much in with some of my business initiatives, of which one is actually called Sustainable Technology Venture Capital Fund of Funds. And we invest in the kind of sustainable future as well. So it's very topical for me. Also, my massive transformative purpose is really around how can we shape a better future in the smart technology era. And I did my PhD in AI when AI was really in the winter period. Nobody probably knew anything about it at Stellenbosch University. I started my first AI company in AI and still the winter period, and we were unlocking value. And then eventually I sold this to General Electric in 2011. And then the field started to explode. And obviously, in terms of the data that's available, the compute and the video was really coming to the picture with GPUs and all of it. So the infrastructure was there, the data was there, and it allowed us to also make some breakthroughs in terms of algorithms and architectures around AI. And so it's fascinating for me that I've studied that's been in the AI world most of my adult life, and to see what's really happened. And we're kind of living in a new era. And sorry, just going back. Yeah, so and what I did during COVID, before ChatGPT and those things, although I talked about that in my book, my latest book is on democratizing AI to benefit everyone. And you will see the massive transformative purpose shaping a better future in the smart technology era. So that's really what I'm looking at now. But what's quite interesting, even though I'm in tech, I like technology and all of it, I think over the last decade or so, I just realized how important it is to create that human-centric future. And technology should just support it. It shouldn't replace us. We should be careful about all sorts of other narratives, even narratives that some of the tech giants are driving. We've got a responsibility to really direct things. We've got a blanket canvas, and what we need is visionary leadership to execute in a proper way. So I'll be talking a little bit about that, and when we talk about green buildings and this kind of sustainable future, this is very much part of it. It should be human-centric. Technology should only be there to help us to actually optimize quality of life for as many people as possible. If it doesn't do that, then we need to rethink the whole thing. And my companies and things that I'm involved in is really focused on AI, but specifically helping to create that better future. Now, this slide I've been using for many years, but it's kind of on a holistic level, just saying if you look at humanity and looking over the timeline, there's a number of revolutions. There's different ways of framing it. But clearly, agriculture, fishery, metals, those things had a huge impact. And then on top of that, the industrial, financial sectors. And then around 1995, the internet era, and then with all the abundance of data, we've started to instrument the world effectively with lots of data, the internet data. And now we're training our large language models, our multimodal models on these kind of data as well. But before that, and that's why my first AI company, Season Systems, we went into the industrial space because there was a lot of sensors. The industrial plants was well instrumented with all the sensors that looks at specific temperatures, flows, pressures, all those kind of things. Now, if you think about green buildings, you would find a similar kind of thing. You can also instrument buildings, and you can create a lot of data, and you can, based on that, you can create models. And then, as a result of that, you can create predictive digital twins, predictive maintenance, you can do all these kind of things. And that's exactly what we did. But obviously, when the internet took off, the data that was available, and it's not just any data, it's structured, unstructured, text, video, audio, everything that you can represent in bits, and digital and zeros and ones, is available for training, effectively. And we're really into the smart technology era, and AI is probably one of is the dominant force in that era. Not going into too much detail here, but this slide is just, again, illustrating what I just had in the previous slide. It is just focusing and saying the historical inflection point, this understanding the past that lead to the future. So this, you can put up a table like this, and you can look at the revolutions,
agriculture, industrial, information, AI revolution. You can look at what is the primary catalyst, what is the core technologies, who's winning, who's losing. And the slides, I do think it's available, so if people want to look at this, and there's also an appendix, then you're most welcome to do that. By the way, my book is available everywhere, but it's also for free available from my website. You can just download a PDF, jacquesludik.com. But anyway, so, and in there, I do give a lot of context, and there's a lot of other thought leadership that help with providing context, and I've distilled that, and that's kind of well described in some of the chapters as well. And what we've done is just one of my companies, STVC, we also kind of position it in this kind of AI revolution and think carefully about the catalyst, the core technology, who's winning and who's losing. In the interest of time, I'm going to continue. What I also want to say, what I also talk about in my book, is that we are on a runaway trajectory. It is extremely dangerous times. And I think it's very important that we make wise choices going forward. It's almost like humanity is making all sorts of experiments, social experiments with the internet as well, with social media, all these things. We see good, we see bad. And it's a huge responsibility on us to actually use the technology in a smart way. With great power comes great responsibility. And that's where we stand. And it's going to be very important for leaders going forward to help shape things in the right direction. So if you do think about the current civilization, it doesn't look as bad as this right now, but we are struggling with sense-making, meaning-making, wealth gaps. And what I talk about in my book, it's not just about technology. Technology can play a massive role to create an abundant world, but we need to fix a bunch of other things as well, foundational things. There's infrastructure things for quality of life. And we need to look at the economy, we have to look at governance systems, and we need to bring it all tied all together. So it's really stakeholder capitalism that we need to look at and address and fix. There's things like discrimination, data abuse, bias, human agency, very important. I think it's very important that we're not creating a world where we are not robust individuals. So even if we've got our own personal AI agent, the focus should be on making us more robust and stronger and more effective in this world. So for me, it's very important that we create that type of future, not the future where we are being controlled. I think, and the last part, I'm not sure I'm going to get to that, I actually talk about digital dictatorship. I think it's very important to have a balance between the collective, where you want to protect the collective, like you want to protect the body if there's cancer or something, but then there's also the individual freedom. So we just need to get that balance right, and it needs to be elastic. There would be times, like COVID and so forth, where we want to protect the collective, but we want to really be elastic around that and make sure that the individual's freedom is still protected. So to get that balance right is very important. Also concerned about tech giants, the AI tech giants controlling kind of the future. So that's why I'm much more for a decentralized future where AI agents, we've got control, where we can monetize our data and services, and we can calibrate these kind of things. I think that's going to be very important going forward. So what we need is visionary leadership, collective sense-making, wisdom. We have to be positive. We have to visualize that future. There's practical actions to ensure that humanity and our civilization is moving in the right direction. That's why the Green Building Convention and what we're doing here is so important, because it's positive ripples in the fabric of civilization. And those are the things that one needs to do. And then we should unlock the technologies, the power that we've got available. Now you can envision now a kind of a smarter world where you see a smart city, smart grid, smart homes. This is the future that we're heading towards. And it's very fragmented obviously as well, because we know there's a lot of areas where we don't even have the basic infrastructure. So we need to create a world of abundance. We need to fix the economy. We need to invest in the right areas and places. We need to get rid of corruption and all these things so that we use money in an optimal way. And obviously invest in education and healthcare, those kind of things that's basic for quality of life. And then we can build on that. But the potential is tremendous. Oh, so this is just another slide. I'm not going to go into too much detail yet, but it's again talking about the same things but different labels. And it's kind of talking about Industry 4.0, the cyber physical systems, Society 5.0, the smart society. Because basically what's happening is, as we know, there's kind of narratives that's running, there's a collective narrative that's running. We, as humans, and society, civilization, buy into narratives about, which is abstract narratives around money and governance and economic systems and all sorts of different things. So there's also kind of a revolution happening on that kind of level with us. There's Web 3.0, read, write, execute, the cybernetics, the fusion of human and machine. Got to be careful with that. Really think about what is the meaning of life and what does it mean to be human in the 21st century. And I've got chapters in my book talking about this, especially the latter part. There's companies that's creating the guardrails, like the IEEE guardrails around the spatial web, that's looking at the sensors, the intelligent agents, the actors, so that we can do things in an orderly fashion and also in a human-centric fashion. And you will see there on top, where we say hyper-integrated, hyper-personalized, hyper-automated, ethically aligned network of humans, machines, and AI. So it's going to be very important that we keep that control and that we do it in that way. Okay, so a few slides just on green building, specifically what's next, as that's the kind of theme here as well. Obviously things like global carbon emissions come up, and what we see here is the built environment is responsible for nearly 40% of that. So business as usual is not longer an option. So if we're stepping up to next, we need to think about how can we use these technologies, which can be a catalyst for transformation, to actually make a difference. And we know with the AI, the smart technology toolboxes that's available, that's tremendously empowered the last decade or so. You see design, build, and operate buildings. You can implement it in all the phases. In the design phase, I've got just a few slides, just quickly talking about that. The build phase, the operational phase. So once you've got things instrumented, you can start modeling, you can start predicting, you can do what-if scenario analysis, causal analysis, and you can try to figure out where the problems are ahead of time as well. So AI is not just a future concept, it's really a next practical step in achieving SDGs. And just in a quick example, if you think about design, I'm sure a lot of people are already using the likes of ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or so forth, and all the different versions. It's quite clear, if you use it in a proper way, you can utilize that technology along with other technology in an integrated way to improve, say, energy efficiency, material usage, natural light, cost, all those kind of things. It's almost like AI architect supporting you. And then digital twins have been with us for a while. It's going to get a lot more sophisticated as we improve the technology, and the technology is getting better. So this is an interesting, exciting world. And we can see how AI can help design greener, more efficient buildings from the ground up effectively. On the construction side, we will see more kind of robotics and drones doing monitoring, robotics doing repetitive tasks with precision. We will see that quite a bit. And then even things like project management, you can, if you've got that instrumented, your whole project, then you can do real proper predictive project management, not only predictive maintenance, but think about that as well during the construction phase. In terms of, okay, this kind of stuff we've been doing actually with my first AI company, and also when I worked at General Electric for a few years, 5 years. They were very much into HVAC systems, smart HVAC systems. We were using AI to creating models of pieces of equipment, like HVACs or any other piece of equipment, and then do predictive maintenance on that. And it's also a function of the quality of the data, how you actually implemented all of that, but this is we've been doing this quite a while. AI-driven energy management, optimizing energy use across the portfolio, smart grid optimization. There's so much data available, there's no excuses not to really optimize in a proper way. So if you think about case studies, I know the Edge in Amsterdam, they've got a smart building management system that uses AI for continuously optimizing energy use. And they're claiming resulting in 40% reduction in operational energy costs and zero unplanned downtime. And we also see the tech giants, when they're looking at their data centers, the way they are implementing things in a very energy efficient, cost effective way as well. Google also talked about using the DeepMind division. They talked about 30% reduction in energy costs and so forth by just monitoring, applying AI. So it's kind of eating their own dog food effectively, using the technology to also help them be more cost effective. So there's various things that one can do. And then obviously for South Africa, there's a bunch of things that we need to do here. So this is a nice picture visualizing a green building kind of Cape Town. But there's a few things here that one needs to look at. Obviously we've got energy challenges as well. So we need to look at the whole energy mix, doing that in a very responsible way. And again, smart technologies can also come into play there. We need to think about circular economies as well, where you track and manage the building materials using AI. So there's a lot of potential here. It's just now about execution. And we see many examples. So if you look at Elon Musk's businesses, well, you might disagree with some of the things that they're doing, but they execute. And they may be predicting things, talking about things into the future, like self-driving cars. That's taking much longer. And by the way, I've got a lot of opinions on those kind of things, as well as humanoid robots as well. So that's a different topic as well. But the execution part, the vision is very important, and then executing on that vision, correct vision, is very important. Asking the right questions is very important. So, and this is very much part of the theme that I'm thinking about, is this human-centric, smart cities, smart towns kind of world, where you've got connected to the smart grid, you're creating the resilient, decentralized power systems, you've got integrated intelligent transport systems, you've got data-driven urban planning. But I've also envisioned not only that, but I'm thinking about us as humans. How can we optimize quality of life in this kind of environment? Because there's mental health, there's a bunch of other things that one needs to think about. So it's very important to think about the kind of agents that we use, the personalized agents, the ones that we use at home, wherever we go in the cars, all of those kind of things. And it might be, even with cars, that the self-driving feature is not going to be that important, as opposed to kind of a feature that's really personalized, understanding our needs, adapting to our needs, and trying to help us live better lives. So there's more things to say about that. And then the last part of the presentation, I see I've got 2.5 minutes left. This is just zooming out a little bit. If you think about the world, and we use this also in one of my companies, Sustainable Technology Venture Capital Fund of Funds, where we looked at the big picture and we see $1 trillion nexus. And we see also that green building is a global imperative from that perspective. And if you think about the problems, where to invest, this again, I'm thinking of putting my venture capitalist hat on, thinking about where to invest money for the best, not only return on investment, but return on impact as well. So those two things are very important. And then you think about problem as opportunity. There's a $30 trillion in annual global value chain waste and lost resources that conventional models cannot monetize. That's one. Critical shortfall. There's 35 trillion cumulative investment need for global energy transition and a 6.4 trillion sustainable development goal financing gap as well. In my book, I talk about a massive transformative purpose for humanity that aligns with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Also specific goals that look at that from a smart technology perspective. And I think it's very important to think about those things and then drive towards achieving those goals, relevant goals. And then the last one here, failure of financial plumbing, the lack of efficient, transparent, scalable conduits for capital flow, hindering investment of the critical sectors. And that's about 4 to 5 trillion to fund that bottleneck. So it's not isolated issues, they're all mutually dependent challenges. And this is the kind of things that we're looking at fixing. This is the company's new thing. We were raising initially $3 billion to invest in smart mega projects, but also private equity as well as venture capital investments as well. And it's a proprietary fund of funds powered by Alpha Engine, so we also, like the Googles, eating our own dog food, using technology to help us make smarter investments and thinking about that in a better way. Okay, so the rest of the slides is just quickly talking about the vision of sustainable abundance. I think it's very important. There's also this kind of paradox. We see this technology innovation that's probably also doing an S-curve or maybe multiple S-curves. But there's also this lagging thing in economic productivity, and we need to fix this. So there's a productivity paradox, and those are things that we are aware of, and we want to say we make smart investments to actually close that gap. Because if we don't fix the economic productivity, it doesn't matter in terms of what you do with technology innovation. Okay, this is just talking about our AI engine. I'm going to skip this. The very important thing for us is human in the loop around all these things. If you think about AI agents, there needs to be this symbiotic approach that provides us with a unique advantage and gives us investors also unparalleled confidence. So I think that's very important. We have to stay in control. And then the last thing I wanted to say around this was just for us, sustainable energy and smart grids, digital manufacturing, supply chain optimization, sustainable and advanced materials, circular economy, innovations, anything to do with smart technology, AI is obviously on the radar specifically. Okay, I think my time is up. The last two slides, and we will make the presentation available, is just zooming out again, but looking at the positives and the negatives, the risks, concerns and challenges for society with AI, but then also talking about the potential benefits. And there's huge benefits. Produce new efficiencies, enhancing human capacities, optimizing, augmenting people's lives, the future of healthcare, future of work, future of education. It can help us also with science, discovery, all sorts of stuff. But we have to focus on the right things, but we've got to be aware of all those things there, which is really important. This is things that I'm really concerned about: surveillance, capitalism, state surveillance, the leadership and governance. The world that we're going into is really critical. I do think if we do make the wrong moves here, we're going to be in trouble. So it's very important that we as citizens, that we think clearly about the future here. And there are things that we can do. Improve human collaboration across all borders and stakeholders, develop the right policies to assure that development of AI will be directed at augmenting humans in common good, and then set the priorities, again, for economic, political, and education systems to empower individuals. This is going to be absolutely critical in this world. Yeah, and I believe, I'm probably going to end here, but this is kind of the massive transformative purpose: evolve a dynamic, empathic, prosperous, thriving, and self-optimizing civilization that benefits everyone in sustainable ways and in harmony with nature. But then you can think about decentralized adaptive systems to benefit all, democratizing smart tech to benefit all, optimized quality of life to benefit all, and then sustainable livable planet and exploring the universe. And then there's very specific goals around this that complement the United Nations SDGs as well, that I described as all in my book. So that's for further reading if you're interested. And I think I'm going to end here as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sticking with us.
These questions, or
let's see. Are there any questions for Dr. Ludik? If there are, just you know the drill. Raise your hand. We'll bring you a mic. Questions? Here's a question. Can you just get a mic? Here he comes. See, we've got to get a new person to bring the mic, because yesterday we burned that poor guy out. And this man's got a beard and hair, so he's got a bit of drag going on. He's got to. It takes a little bit of time.
You spoke about the abuse, data abuse, right? What about the step before that, where the data can be manipulated before it's actually fed into the market and the influence that has?
Sorry, say again. You talked. I just heard abuse.
Okay, so you speak about data and the risk of data being abused. But what about where data can be manipulated before it's fed out into the market? And how do we guard against that?
Yeah, that's what I talk about in my book as well. I'm worried about manipulation. That's already happening.